So it is dead on 4 o'clock. I'll kick off. This session is now titled Practical COBie Making It Work. It's been through a couple of iterations during the run-up to this. And in fact, if you look outside, it says Delivering IFC and COBie. The only thing that's really changed the title, there's no difference to what I'm going to be talking about. I've had this written for nearly 2 days. No, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't believe you can deliver COBie unless you've delivered IFC. I think they can be delivered separately, but in terms of what we want from an integrated project delivery, or on the client side, receiving that delivery, IFC and COBie have to be tied in together. COBie is a data view of the model. That's the way I approach it, and that's why the name's changed constantly. We're going to be about 45 minutes, I'm kind of guessing. I don't really want to leave time till questions at the end, because by the time it's over, you're all kind of going, I need a cup of tea, I need to get out of here. So look, if you've got questions as we're going through stuff, just raise your hand, or if I don't notice your hand being raised, take your cup, finish it, throw it at me just to get my attention. I'm happy to talk things through. This is a training session. It's not an on-stage lecture. So, you want to turn this into a workshop and talk about your problems, then do it. COBie problems, not any other problems you might have, I will just hasten to add there. I'm not getting into that. Not on a recorded video. So, anyway, let's plow on. A little bit first about who I am. My name's Nigel Davies. I've been working in engineering and architecture. It says 20 plus years. God. It's been a while. Originally, I was trained as a structural engineer. I kind of moved into architecture just to handle the whole kind of project lead, if you want, the whole kind of standards and leading the project delivery. Since then, I've set up my own business. A little bit more about that in a second. But my kind of experience here that's relevant is I've been involved in kind of steering committees and subgroups of different bits and pieces pretty much since I started in this. So it says there I was the chair of the AEC UK CAD and BIM protocols, CAD standards as they were, updating layer naming to match Uniclass, those kind of things. I was on the steering committee for PAS 1192 Part 2. If you look in the front, there's a little thank you list, and I'm in there. But more recently, I've been working voluntarily, I will hasten to add, with the UK BIM Alliance, looking particularly at the guidance to the ISO 19650 series. And myself, Craig, actually here in the front as well, we're part of the UK BIM Alliance Communities Leadership Team that look at the BIM 4 groups and help them operate across the various platforms. That's me. My business, I'm not going to go into any great detail, but we're always remember that I can't say things when you're being recorded. But we do anything for money, is what I'm trying to say there. Some of the examples of services that we give here, I'll just go through them. I'm kind of concentrating here, typically, on the information management side of things. What we do in terms of project delivery of IFC and COBie. First of all, kind of like just a quick kind of gauge. Does everybody here know what COBie is? Does anybody, I'll ask it a different way, does anybody not understand COBie fully? Thank you, that's the answer I kind of want to hear. Not many people do. Not many people do, and judging by the amount of rubbish that we see on projects, part of our job as information management team is to help people understand COBie. If we're working on the client side, I am not there as the guy with the gun shooting people, going, your COBie is rubbish. My COBie is better than yours. He's not paying any attention. It's about helping the team to deliver. That's what it's all about. People talk about collaboration, they talk about integrated project delivery. To me, that's what it should always be about. It should be about helping and getting things out there. And part of that today is, I'm just going to strip right back to the basics. Everybody put their hand up, pretty much everybody said, we don't know everything about it. Well, actually there's not a lot to know, but knowing how it goes together, and as Graham was explaining just now, how to verify and validate that information It's pretty difficult because there are so many threads that you've got to try and pick up and follow. So I'm going to give you an insight into the way that we've approached it as well, looking at the way we do it on real projects. I'm not just talking hypothetical kind of theory here. This is what we're doing, I won't say all day, every day, but certainly 3 days of the week. You know, one of our team is working on this. Why do I think there's a misunderstanding about what COBie is? Because of the industry, because of the experts. I think that's the problem. Because of the standards. There's all these things. One of the quotes I heard best, I can't remember who said it, was, the problem with implementing standards is the standards. And you read this, and you look at this stuff, and it's all words. It's gobbledygook that doesn't make sense. It's using terms and phrases that nobody uses in real life. So it's not surprising that when you start to look at COBie and you see a load of spreadsheets, you go, oh God, that's extra work I've got to do on a project. It isn't. Most of this data will exist somewhere. Not all of it, so don't get me wrong, but I think we've allowed that complexity to become the norm in the industry, where you're looking at it, you're going, this is too complex, I can't deal with it. So I'm actually going to deal with it. And the first part of this training session is talking about COBie and how simple it actually is. Won't mean to say the data in it is correct, but it will mean at least the structure is. So right back to that, what does COBie stand for? It stands for Construction to Operations Building Information Exchange. Already, that's a problem, because it's not always buildings as such. And COBie can work on a multitude of different types of projects, and you'll hear about a load of other different kind of COBie phrases that, you know, fiery is the latest one that's come out. If you've looked at ISO, no wonder we've got problems in the industry when, no, we're not doing COBie, we're now doing fiery, but fiery doesn't match COBie, and it's just, oh, I hate this industry sometimes. The bottom one is a quote from Nick Nisbet, who's around somewhere, who, you know, author of BS 1192 Part 4 and now ISO 19650 Part 4, can't operate a building in Excel. You can't. And that's one of the things, that might seem like a real flippant kind of handoff, but it isn't. You cannot operate a building in Excel. Even though COBie will take the form of Excel, just like your drawings may take the form of PDF, a PDF will not get the building constructed. Excel will not allow you to manage your building. It's just an information exchange format. So, what is it really about? It's about this. It's about getting design information out of the design environment so that this guy knows he's happy in his job, that when he goes to fix that, he knows exactly what he's fixing and why. Or more importantly, he's doing preemptive maintenance and it's not going to break down. Whole nother subject. But that's what it's about. And really, the Excel there that you see in the middle is a series of sheets that allow that to happen. You will hear people who say, COBie is not Excel. And it isn't. COBie is a structure. COBie is a schema. And actually, a lot of FM systems use the same kind of structure. But 99.9% of the time, you're going to see COBie as Excel. That's how you're going to see it on the design team, particularly if you're working in the authoring tools that we work with. That's what they're set up to deliver. So that's probably what you're going to see. It actually came from the US Army Corps of Engineers. Bill East, over in the States, was tasked with, we've got all these assets, how do we standardize the data within them? So that anybody going in to maintain one of our assets knows what rooms and equipment are delivered in the building, where does a technician go to work on that equipment, and how is the equipment operated and maintained. That's what COBie's for. And this, again, is one of the things, kind of Neil was asking the question just now, why does COBie seem complex? Because we read that and we read it literally, which usually means to the person looking at this from a design team, they go, COBie is only required for maintenance. That's all it's for handover. If you do that, you end up in the situation, most of the projects that we get brought in on, you're coming up to the end of stage 5, you're coming up to handover, none of this data is in the model. And the client turns around and goes, you were contracted to deliver this, and everybody goes, we haven't This is what they do. They go, we haven't bothered because you don't really want it. You don't really want it. You didn't really want to ask for it. And the client goes, yeah, we did, because we've got to get into our asset management systems by the end of next month for, practical completion. No, you don't, because you just put it in. It's not part of our contract. Yes, it is. So one of the things that we always look at in terms of COBie is making sure it's progressive development and looking at each stage and making sure that the design team are on board. Whether we're working for the design team or we're working with the client, is making sure that that information is going in. And we have key performance indicators. We have percentages complete at any stage to say, stage 2, if you've got a model, you just need a classification code on the entity. Yeah? At the end of stage 2, if they're only 70% complete, we'll let it go. But we'll flag it to say, by the end of stage 3, this needs to change. So it's about trying to educate people and move forward. But why is it now? I'm going to skip through this. This is a little timeline I use for a lot of different presentations. And I'm going to skip through it. Really, what becomes important is when you get to the end. COBie, originally, 2011, thereabouts, IFC, 2x3, still the standard being used, 2x3, back in 2006. But what does that mean? Didn't mean anything until you come to the end of this timeline and you get to things such as ISO 19650 parts 1 and 2. Published in 2019, the UK version came out in 2020. That suddenly changed the game from being a PAS, a publicly available specification, which is, this is what we think you ought to be doing, to an international standard of how to manage information on a project. Behind that, the other parts came out, but then we had this. In the UK, we had Grenfell. What that did, that kicked the industry up the arse and said, you guys, you're not keeping records. You are not demonstrating that the information is correctly structured, managed, and the archive isn't there. And what we've seen since then, I presume everybody in the room who's working in the UK has seen a change. All the conversations now are about how to get data into your project delivery, how to make sure there is a permanent record of that data, and to make sure the decisions are being monitored as it goes along. And so we're seeing a big change. We're seeing a lot more things. I did say that ISO 19650 was international. There's a quick slide on the countries that were involved in the blue. The orange weren't directly involved, but they were monitoring it. Ireland up here. But what it means is now we're working on projects anywhere across the world. We're seeing a difference in approach. We are seeing a standardized information management model coming in on projects. But what also happened at the same time as those standards were published, in the UK National Annex came out. And the UK National Annex, a couple of pages at the end that says, if you're going to do it this way, here's how you implement it in the UK. There's an Irish one as well. There's a couple around the world. I'm not going to go through them all now. But the one thing that the UK says is that, quote, in the UK, information models exchanged with the appointing party, unless specified to the contrary, within the project information standard, should include geometrical information in open data formats. Non-geometrical information in open data formats. Documentation in open data. Thank you very much, Neil. I'll be, join me on stage for the sing-along later. Open data formats. When you talk about documentation in open data formats, I've got DocX and XLS there, or PDF. People don't even bat an eyelid. They go, of course we're going to deliver that. That's what we do. Yet as soon as you bring this in, they start, oh, it can't be done. Can't do it on our project, can't do it. And then they come to COBie and they go, COBie's not relevant to us, we're structural engineers, it's not relevant. Actually, we're architects, it's not relevant until handover and we're only appointed to stage 4. Contractors come on board and go, you don't want COBie. What you actually want is something totally different, proprietary system that we've got. Why does that happen? This should be business as usual. That's what the UK National Annex says. We do find that working on international projects as well, people tend to look towards that National Annex for kind of some of the things. Document naming, information container naming being one of them. But also this, open data formats. Why wouldn't you work to open data formats? Each one of these has got a standard, an ISO behind it. PDF does, ODF does, COBie does. Well, it's not got the ISO until the end of next month, but it is there. They are recognized standards, so why wouldn't you work to them? Take the example of a client. They are specifying their delivery team to deliver COBie. Why do they need it in COBie? because it's standard. Their FM system more than likely won't import COBie directly. More than likely won't. But by asking for COBie, they don't have to tax the design teams for giving them specialist formats. They can just say, that's the standard, we'll make our import work off of COBie. Now, we'll either have to do that ourselves, we do that on a couple of projects, we map COBie to their FM systems, or they talk to their FM system provider about getting direct COBie imports. But that allows them, a couple of our clients do that. They've used that as the internal standard to specify it to their asset teams as well and say, not only will the design teams be doing this, you'll be working off of this as a standard as well. And it makes a big difference. Complexity. Why is it so complex? Because people see certain documents and they get scared. Anybody read these two? One is the National BIM Standard COBie specification, section 4.2, in fact. How thick is the document, Craig? How many pages are in it? Yeah. It's like a Stephen King novel, just specifying COBie. If you try to read it as a delivery team, I don't know what you do. You go and read a Stephen King novel, probably instead. And then there's BS 1192 Part 4, which as you delve into that, no offense to the guys who wrote it, I know them, but it's not exactly bestseller information. All you have to think about if you're trying to understand COBie, two parts of it. Just start with these, then you'll get led on to the rest. Just like you go through a document, it will give you a contents list, and then you start reading it, you kind of go, now I need to refer to this document. Refer to section, this is how big the document is, refer to section 4.2.3.2.2. That defines what is in each COBie field. And that's typically the part that people have problems with on a project. I'll leave it up there for you, but I'll send the slides out later as well. If you're registered for the session, then I've got your email address. I will send it out, but... and then the bottom one as well. BS 1192, Graham explained it actually in his last one quite succinctly. Section 6.3.1, the general requirements. I'm going to go through those. I'm going to explain what they do by giving you a practical example of COBie. And then you'll go, oh, I do know everything about it at all. I'm not going to say it's going to be correct, but at least you know everything. Here it is. How does COBie work? I'm going to use the looking at my slide deck, first thing is to understand the colors. There's an info sheet at the front that explains what they are. It's a real pity I put this slide as zone highlighted, because zone is actually a green one, which means you don't have to have it. You don't have to have zones. You don't need to put them in there if the client doesn't care about them. Actually, to be honest, apart from a couple of design reviews and things like health and safety at stage 3 or something like that, I very rarely see a client who actually needs zones. You don't need zones. You do need zones. Yes. It depends on how your FM system's set up, and it also depends what you're using the information for. That's what green is. It doesn't have to be there. The yellow stuff is required. If you're going to specify COBie, that needs to be there. If it isn't there, it's not COBie. It's something that looks like COBie, but isn't. It's like my doppelganger twin brother. You know, he looks like me, but he couldn't give this presentation. I do have a twin brother. He couldn't give this presentation. But he is COBie without the yellow stuff, yeah? The rest, orange, is just a reference to another sheet. It's a lookup. You know how to do that in Excel. Equals, and then you pick another cell. That's what orange is. It's actually a list. Same kind of thing. So let's have a look at the standards and actually look at what it means. Here's the important one. BS 1192 Part 4, Section 6.3.1. Every space location should... I've switched off already. It's better to look at this diagrammatically. And what this does shows how things go together. You have an entity at the bottom here. An entity in terms of IFC, or in terms of COBie, it will be a component. Here we start to come to the reasons people get confused with this stuff. IFC and COBie should be one and the same thing. COBie is a data representation of the model. It doesn't have to be, but entity and component, already we're dealing with things, you kind of go, oh, good God, just call it one thing. Entity. They then have a relationship. They sit in a space. Our client over here knows well enough that you need to know where it is. Yes? That then also will have a type. It'll only have one type. That little diagram there is a singular representation. If I need to buy some more of these for this meeting room, what do I go and buy? I don't go and buy the red thing with the gold. I find out what it is, probably there's a model number somewhere on the bottom, or I get Google Lens to look up what it is, and I go and order that type. I'll have 15 of that type. So in this room, there are 21 entities of that type. That's all it's doing. Over here as well, entities then belong to systems. They don't all belong to systems in terms of COBie, and in fact, that's one of the things that the standard does not specify. It doesn't specify what a system is. You would have to look to your client to say, what do we need as systems? Systems. Let's have a look. Lighting system. The lights connect to the cabling, which connects to the light switches, which connects to a fuse box, which connects to a control system. All those kind of things. That's what a system is. Is it your HVAC? Typically, you're talking about building services there in systems, but not necessarily. Again, we're working on a very large project where systems are huge bits of concrete. They're pipe runs, basically, but they're not a building system. Spaces then can relate to a zone. A space can belong in multiple zones. It depends on your requirements as to what that zone is. Is that zone a series of classrooms, or is it a series of fire compartments, which is typically one of the things we do see zones used for? Whatever, doesn't matter. A space has to exist on a floor. Singular. Every architectural model we see at stage 3 forgets this bit, and spaces run all the way up the building. This is the space for the lift shaft. That's not a space. Not in terms of COBie or IFC. It doesn't match the structure. That would be a series of spaces at each floor. Yeah, it's just probably you wouldn't get into one of those to maintain the lift equipment, otherwise, oh, whoops. You end up in the right space, just not the way you wanted to get there. Finally, at the top, you then have everything related to a building. Singular. COBie delivers one. There is no direct relationship in the COBie sheet between floor and building. You just have to presume that it is all part of the same thing, because it's only one building. And at the top then, what site does that belong to? Anybody ever opened an IFC file in something like Celebri or anything like that? Does this kind of stuff start to look familiar? An IFC viewer will show you the site, it will show you the building, it will show you the floor, and then alongside the floor, it will show you the zones and spaces. That's because that structure is there. That data structure is what makes this work. Without it, it doesn't. So here, really basic component example. The first thing you need to fill out in a component is the first field there. Syntax we use is component.name to say it's the component sheet, the name field. And if you refer to, write this down or take a photo, 4.2.3.2.2.86, that will tell you component name, and it will give you a definition. The component name must match the value found on design drawing schedules. Bad English. Design drawing schedules, comma, at the equivalent project stage. Must. So let's take a really simple example that exists on pretty much every project, and that's a door. What is the component name of a door? There's my drawing, terribly pixelated. Really do apologize because I blew it up and didn't have time to fix it. What am I talking about for the component name? The value that exists on design drawings and schedules. It's my door number. That's my component name. It's not a Revit family name. It's not a Revit category name. It matches, and it matches for a reason. COBie is a digital representation of what we're seeing here. And if I want to do anything, if I want to know what that drawing is, what that element is, if I'm not in an FM system, if I'm an early stage of a project, I need to know how it relates on the door schedule, for example. I need to look at that and go, I do have door 27, and oh, look, it's the right type. Oh, it's the right width. I can check my information and make sure it's correct. That's validation, that's verification, which we typically wouldn't get involved in. So that goes in there, and in terms of Revit, that would be the instance mark of a door. It might not always be, and you might not be using Revit, but I'm just using that as the kind of like the easy example. Created by 4.2.3.2.1 says the contact email of the person creating it. Contact email address, created by. What color is it? Orange. What does that mean? It's a lookup to another field. And in fact, that comes from Email details on the contact sheet. Contact sheet goes into there. We've now got the email. I'll skip date because usually that's typically automatically generated. There's a great debate about what date is. With all these standards, people say, is that the date that line was edited? Well, that's officially what it is. Is that the date that COBie was generated? Is it the date that you exported? Who cares? The only thing you need to know is it current? Yeah? So with all these standards, when people start to get debating about which date is it, you tell them. Actually, we don't care as long as we know it's the latest. Or you tell them what type of date it is you need. Next one along from there is the type name. It's orange. Paying attention, that's another lookup. The type name must match the value. Oh, look, it's the same. So the type name needs to be the thing on the drawing or the schedules as well. That would be a door type. It wouldn't be a Revit category name. Doesn't make any sense, doesn't mean anything. So that's typically coming from the type.name sheet, and it's just being populated in that. What that then does, and this is the way COBie works, is it's now giving you a specific piece of information and saying it's related to something else. So it goes back to the type sheet. The same will happen just now for space. Must match the value found on drawings and schedules. That comes from the space sheet. And now, oops, sorry. I now know that this one specific component is in this space of that type. There are a couple of other columns over here that I'm not going through, which tell you what type of information that is. That allows you, I'll talk about it later actually if I get time, that tells you, if I'm going back to the authoring tool, which element that's actually related to. So, quick one about documents. That works exactly the same. Document, I look up the definition to find out what data should be in there. Document.name, document blah, 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 blah. It's giving me the information of what needs to go in there. I'm going to put in a performance spec. The document name goes into the name field there. Then, COBie is very clever. It says, okay, what does this specification relate to? And in this case, it's got a column that says sheet name. Which sheet does it relate to? Specification is typically on type. So it's referring back to the type sheet. And it will also then give me a row name to say that performance spec relates to that specific type. I know it's that specific type because the rules of COBie, I can only have one type. I can't have duplicated type names. That would be a problem. That's where you start to look at the automatic QC checker and it will go, you've got multiple type names. More on that later. That's how COBie works. So long as you know what you're putting into each field, the NBIM's COBie document tells you that, you're 95% of your way to getting COBie filled out properly. That's it. That's pretty much as simple as it is. What's difficult is making sure the information is correct. Yes? Both in terms of the value in the field and that everything cross-relates properly. That you haven't got spaces in your type sheet or your component sheet that don't exist on the spaces sheet, because that would be silly. And just kind of, as we're working through this on any project, this is the first place that we start is, COBie is not just for handover. This is a diagram that we've taken from someone, just made it look pretty using the RBA stages of work. There are times when you are going to need data at different stages that COBie can be used for. Simple thing, stage one, I've never seen it used at stage one. It's not really that thing, but I have seen it used at stage 3. One of the good examples I saw of it at stage 3 was a project we were working on for a university. One of the real problems they have in their early stage design is having water storage tanks in boiler rooms. Because if you're any aware of that, that's one of the criteria for causing Legionnaire's disease. So they use it at stage 3. Instead of having to go through the model or all the drawings or all the data or all the specifications, they take COBie and they look at the equipment list and they go, boiler, is that in a room? Right, let's put all the boiler number rooms over here. Now let's get all the water storage rooms. Let's put those in a list next to it. Let's do a simple lookup. Are there any that are the same? Whoops, we've got a problem. But that's a really simple example of where COBie can be really beneficial rather than having to do complex looking into the design. They do that, takes them 15 minutes to do that on a project. It doesn't take them 15 minutes to solve it, but it takes 15 minutes to do it. Construction information, that's one of the times that we actually start to use it quite a lot through stage 4 to making sure that we've got things like the right amount of equipment in a room. It's no good getting to stage 5 or handover to do that. You need to make sure that's happened design. So full schedules, all those kind of things, stage 4. If you look at the standard downloads that you get for this in the UK COBie toolkit, this is what tells you what information you need. Neil, referring to your point there, why is it so complicated? I've tried to make sense of this so many times. I've tried to look at it and go, right, that's RS, so it's green, so it means only need it if it's specified. But R and U, update data, change the value in this cell. That presumably means at these stages, I'm updating a value from a previous. What we prefer to do instead is actually this. People don't care about that, they don't, and they start to look at that and they'll switch off. So this is one of our standard kind of templates that we use at the start of a project. What stage do we need this data? And what we tend to do is, at stage 3 there, it very rarely ends up like that. What we tend to do is push things like the unnecessary data further back down the chain as we possibly can. For waiting for the client to be on, the contractor to be on board, it's very minimal here. But you see a question mark for the green stuff. In our template, the first thing there is, do you need this? Mr. Client, Mrs. Client, do you need this? Do you need to know replacement costs at stage 3? Not for your costing, I doubt it very much. Maintenance, yes. But anyway, we go through that. That then starts to form part of the responsibility matrices on the project. Deliver that out to the team. Suddenly they know what they're supposed to be doing. We take it another step, which I'll come on to in just a second. I think, yes, next slide. But then here's the stuff we look at. This is back in the NBIMS document again, section 4.2, table 101 and table 102 tell you what should not be included in a model. 101, don't put these in the type of components. 102, leave out of all sheets. They're very, very similar. I wish I had the example there. IFC pile, there you go. You never need a pile in COBie. Why? Because you're not going to maintain it. Yeah, if you're maintaining a pile, I said this morning, if you're maintaining a pile, you've got worse problems than delivering COBie. Yeah, you've got collapsing buildings to worry about. They're not needed, they're not there, this table kind of excludes it out. But again, you've got the problem here. Who knows what an IFC flow segment type is? Yes, it can be multiple things. We always ignore this kind of thing, and I can't remember if I got an example in here as I go through this, but typically at the start of a project, we'll build a table to say, we need these deliverables, we need these IFC entities, but here's what they are in your software, and here's what they are in the CAFM system at the end. CAFM system may refer to it as a duct, may refer to it as an AHU, they may refer to it as something else, but we'll have a list of what it's referred to, what that means to you, your AHU inside of Revit or EcoSim or whatever it is you're working on, you'll know what that is. That will then map to an IFC entity and a type, typically. We'll do that for people. We'll tell them this is what we want it delivered as. This is the way we do it in terms of data. This is our standard, you see a responsibility matrix or a MPDT as it used to be referred to. Stage 3, LOD 3, doors, architect. No Sherlock. You know, the architect's delivering doors at a level of information needed at stage 3. Great. Waste of time. What this does, it starts to look at the requirements in terms of, we leave the asset requirements out of this because people don't really care about the assets. We're specifying COBie, just like I said our client earlier. They are specifying to the delivery team COBie. They are worried about mapping that into their FM system. More on that later. That's the final COBie field. If we go back through this then, that will be the property that you're looking at in the IFC. That then relates to the parameter or property that you're using on your authoring tool. This is a Revit example. So if I look at COBie component.name, it's the instance mark. It might not be for all entities. It might not be for all of them because not all of them have an instance mark. But this is now a Bible. They can go back to it and they can look at this and go, at stage 3 or stage 4, me, the structural engineer, I'm not delivering COBie, but there's certain asset information I still need to be delivering. What is that? I need to deliver the mark, the type mark, the those kind of things. Steel columns, you need to know what size the steel column is. Typically that's done as a mark. So that's what's being delivered. Architectural stuff, just the same at the top. It gets more emphasis as you go further on. Some of this will never be filled in by the delivery team. That's where here it's marked as W for contractor. Asset information, maintenance information, bar IDs, those kind of things. You know, they're not delivery team. They're not going to do it because they're not on site actually putting the labels on them. So there you go. That's the model production and delivery table. And there is an example across one line of how it works. So, coming on to, not many questions. We're sitting there very quietly, which is, I'll carry on. Any questions so far? Yes, sometimes you have to ask. Yes. You don't need to, and that's one of the things in COBie that, again, is you're getting down into detail now. You look at the COBie name, and one of the things that people expect is the component name to be unique. Yeah, and that's one of, I think I've got that as one of the syntax checks later. It doesn't actually need to be. You just need to know which one it is. More than likely, that's a bad example. You're probably not going to need that in COBie unless you're looking at something specific quickly, like the heating example I talked about earlier. So you're probably not going to need that as a bad example, not in COBie anyway, but certainly in terms of understanding where it is, the grid reference is probably going to give you that. There are other sheets in COBie that will allow you to do that. The attribute sheet, for example, could be used to deliver that. Works in exactly the same way as the document example. You've got an attribute, it says what it relates to. Typically, I'm just trying to remember where location is. Anyway, that could be one of them, but terrible example of mine. Here's how we go about this on a project. So we're going to come on to now the next part of this presentation, which is the last 10 minutes or so, is how we approach this. Oh, sorry, do apologize. It's very difficult to hear. I'm going to lean forward.
No, it's okay. Regarding what he just asked, I had a question since the beginning that you mentioned component point name in COBie, but then you replace it with you fill it up with the mark number.
Yep.
So why is it not component number? And the mark for each element actually is different. So you cannot have columns or 20 any elements with the same mark. That's one. So, but the thing is that every time that you change that element, you delete it by mistake and you place it again. That mark is going to change, and you have already put it on in COBie. So when it's changed, then how to update it again?
So we're always generating COBie. That's what I'm coming on to talk to next. We're generating COBie directly from the model. So if the model's been updated, we will regenerate COBie. It's quicker than keeping COBie updated separately. So you can do COBie by hand. Yes, you can. I don't know why you would, because there's so many tools these days that allow you to do it. So if that change happens, we actually don't care what the component name or number is. There was a couple of people talking this morning about I don't remember if it was in your session, about you don't care what something is called. It's historical data. You're not going to go back and renumber all that. You just need to know where and what it is. Was that? It was you, wasn't it? Yes. So same thing. The fact that stuff is changing, it may not be relevant at all. And yes, doors, for example, you're constantly renumbering those on a project to, as the design goes on. In terms of COBie, just regenerate it again at the end of stage. COBie is typically a deliverable that you're building up to at one of those information exchanges. It will be right at that point in time, and then it might change again later. But this is how we do it. So this is a diagram of our process in terms of this. We, first and foremost, don't care what software anybody's using, because we use Celebri to validate this information. If you've not looked at Celebri, I don't get any money for this. I love Celebri. Celebri delivers COBie pretty much better than anything else, because it can be reconfigured to pull out the right information on different objects. So it might be a totally different component name on a door as it is to an air duct. It might be a totally different location of reference. It might be a different parameter on another piece of equipment. COBie allows us to do that. So long as on our project, this tells us which is being used for which type of information, we'll configure Celebri to look at that data. I don't care what you're using there, just tell me what you're using and I'll pull it out into the right place. It's easy for me to do, and that's the way we work as information managers. We try to take the difficulty away from the team and deal with that kind of stuff ourselves. That's what we get paid for, that's our expertise. So back to this. If we're responsible for delivering COBie, we will require IFC to be issued. We will not generate COBie from the model directly. We will not use the COBie extension in Revit. We certainly will not export COBie from Bentley's Open Buildings Designer. We will take it into Slibri because we can work with multiple formats on a project, we can configure it up, we can pull the data out of the right objects and deliver COBie. But we need IFC to do it. Why do we need IFC to do it? Because IFC is the visual representation of what COBie should be at the end. When we get to delivering it to the client, as their handover, they want to know that the data in COBie is identical to the data that they've got in their IFC model, or their Revit model, or their Bentley DGN, whatever it is, COBie needs to be identical. So we use Slibri and IFC to verify that. So in the question there, if that information has changed, then the next time we start to review COBie, we'll look at it again.
The information in COBie matches the drawings. No one cares about the model. The model's going to be in. So, yeah, so it's completely different. I couldn't care less what sense, where it came from, how it gets there. The whole idea is you have a database system where you build up your asset database system with all of these assets and zones and systems. All of that stuff. When somebody's going off and looking for pump 43, that was called, or PU that 43, what like the drawing, where the hell's PU 43 was made? 3D modeling, so yeah, so slight difference.
No. Absolutely. So for those of you who didn't hear that, the COBie needs to relate to the drawings. That's critical. Yeah? So that's what we'll do if we're delivering COBie. If we're not delivering COBie, we'll do the same. If the design team are delivering COBie from their own authoring tools, we will forget the fact they're doing it. We won't forget the fact they're doing it. We'll let them do it. We will then, if we have to, export IFC ourselves and do exactly the same process. What that should end up with is identical information. If it isn't identical, there's a problem somewhere. It might be with us, the way we've extracted the information, but we can check that pretty quickly. More than likely, it's where they've not really understood how to deliver COBie. So what we do then is validate those against each other to make sure they're the same. If not, we'll report it back. The extra bit we've got at the end there then is something that we're employed to do quite often as well, is to take it into the FM system. It may not import COBie directly. I said it right at the start. If necessary, we take that out of the design team's realm. We deliver it ourselves. The other thing we look at is trying to make this easier for people in their design software. So rather than having... One of the things we see quite often, quarter 2, I need to move on. One of the things we see quite often is people are asked to deliver COBie component name. And so what they'll do, they'll take their data inside their model and they'll duplicate that information from the instance mark or wherever they're doing it, their own internal thing, and they'll duplicate all that information into a different parameter, COBie component name. It's exactly the same information duplicated. Why? If you understand how to deliver COBie, I can take the information you're doing, tell me what field you're using, I will make sure that ends up in the right place through that responsibility matrix. We also provide teams with additional, this is a Revit example, additional parameters that allow them to get the right basic information. Site name, building name, floor name, zone names. Oh, people make it so difficult about how to name this stuff. There are built-in parameters that you can use, or additional parameters. If you create them, they will automatically map a name that you give it across the IFC export. The IFC exporter in Revit is actually quite good. You've just got to know how to make the most out of it. The IFC exporter in Bentley software is a lot harder. Do I have an example of the Bentley software here? Yes. So that's an easy parameter. You build those in, you're going to get consistent names. You put it in your project information standard to say what those values should be. Then it's easy to do. A quick look up in Excel and go, it doesn't match. Wrong, please change it for next stage or next issue. You cannot expect design team to be experts. So this is what we do. Again, this is, we did a lot of research into Open Building Designer for anybody who's using Bentley software, and we started to look at how the software is configured to deliver the right COBie field. And it's complicated. Grief it's in, and there's some mistakes in there as well, which we found, which is quite good. But for here's an example. COBie component.name from Open Buildings Designer will use the identification ID number. That's what it will use by default. If that doesn't exist, it will look at the name alternate, use that. If not, it will look at the type ID, because components can be sometimes classified by their type instead. Ceiling panels, you wouldn't number those individually. Space unique ID can also be included. So there's a whole list there that we've gone through, and we've basically said, in the end, that's our research. Nobody needs to know about that. What we do is tell people in the responsibility matrix, fill this property in at this stage. This is a quick example of that I talked about earlier. This is the tests that are required as part of the COBie schema to make things correct. Component name not null, it can't be empty. If a component, the name, primary key for the component is the name, don't worry about that too much. If that's unique, if that's not unique, give a warning. Not an error, a warning. But if the component name and the space is not unique, then it's an error. So that means you can have a component with the same name that exists in multiple spaces. So it means you can identify what they are and where they are. That's what it's about. But more importantly, with anything of this, check the basics. Sometimes coordinates go awry. Sometimes that's obvious. I can see this immediately. There's something wrong with this. It's a real model project we were working on recently. There's a services void. That's the services void, yet we've got services in front of doors. We've got it running through kitchens like this. Something's wrong. It's pretty obvious. Yet sometimes it's not so obvious. Is this one right? Is this one wrong? Would I have spotted that to query it manually? No. And that's why we use Celebri, because not only will it generate the COBie for us, if you can put these kind of things into logic, it will check for you. It will run a whole series of checks to help us. So we have one right at the start of a project. We've got 3 checks that check whether the X, the Y, and the Z of any model is correct. It's no good just opening them up and hoping they come in on top of each other. Yes, it might be obvious. Yes, it might be vertically obvious. But that one, no way we would spot it at. So this little rule we've got that just says, what should the origin of the model be? What is the origin of the model? If they're not the same, then that raises a flag for us. We can go back to the design team who sent it to us and say, can you check your coordinates because it doesn't look right to us? Pretty typically, it isn't right. Graham, who's gone now, he was talking about this earlier. One of the things we don't want as the basics are IFC building element proxies. Graham used an absolutely brilliant analogy. He says it's the IFC version of drawing on layer 0 in AutoCAD. Just love that. So we've got a quick table. We don't need anything more than that. We're looking at this and going, I have got some generic objects. I've got 905, 172 in one of them. That's over 1,000 generic objects. What are they? I can look at the model and interrogate 1 or 2 and kind of go, oh, yeah, it should be an air handling unit, or it should be this. I can't do that with over 1,000 elements. What we've got tied in with that is classification. Classification is the one property that we insist on from the very first day a model is created. There should be on each element a classification to tell us what it is. So that even if this, at an early stage, isn't quite right yet, we can identify that's an air handling unit. Brilliant. And we can then build into it. If we've got a classification, we can start building that into mapping tables to get it into the FM terminology. Doesn't matter what entity it is, although that helps. Here's an example here, where just having an IFC electric appliance type, something you plug in, a kettle is a good example, toaster, fryer. They're all the same IFC entity type. It's only the classification that tells us exactly what it is. And so that we can use. Also, The other one that kind of comes onto is, what if your maintenance team, unfortunately Johnny's gone there, what if your maintenance team doesn't care about Uniclass? What if they want NRM for costing? What if they want SFG20 for maintenance? Are you expecting your design team to understand those codes? No. So what we tend to do is to send this out as a table on the start of the project and say, if you're putting a toaster in, it will end up, that's what I said at the start, it will end up as an IFC electrical appliance type, thank you very much. It will have this product code on it. It will have this NRM field on it. It will have this SFG20 field. We don't care if they put those two on there because we do it in Celebri. We map the correct product code to the correct FM requirement. And then finally, just coming at the last minute, when we report back, we always report it back as a COBie spreadsheet for a number of reasons. One, it starts to familiarize the teams with what information they're actually providing and why, what it's looking like. What is this COBie stuff? What it also does for them is looks at it visually and helps them identify back in the model. There's a couple of columns here, standard when you generate COBie in anything, that says what's the external identifier, what's the GUID of that element or the element ID. You can go and look that up. You might have to use Dynamo to do it, but you can go and find that exact object. But more likely than that, you don't need that. By delivering it this way, okay, this is the type sheet. If I've got a problem with type SAN03, you can go to the model pretty easily. Anybody who's learned to use Revit in a day can go and find type 03 and work out, oops, we haven't got a classification code on it. Go to edit, type properties, parameters, fill in the code. You fixed it for every single entry of that. If there's duplication, we do this by, Graham was going through a really good series of Excel formula that they use to check this. We don't. We just use the color coding, the automatic formatting options. And we put it on the top of each list and say, if this column has duplicates, highlight them in red. It might not be wrong, but it helps point things out. If it has a value parameter not defined, which is one we build into COBie right at the bottom, if there's no value at all, we flag it up as parameter not defined so we can say it doesn't exist in the model. Or it doesn't exist where you told us it exists. Send that back to the design team. You can see really quickly and easily how widespread the problems are that way. Looking at a model, you wouldn't necessarily see it. But that's the way we do it. We send that back. And then more importantly, we go through this with the team, with the model on a screen, in a room, or at their desk. And we start to go, look, let's look at this and how to fix it. There's no good just sending it back going, your COBie is rubbish. It's no good at all. What we have to do is make sure that they can deliver it. And to do that, you need to make sure the information requirements have been defined. Yes, when you're checking or delivering COBie, you have to make sure they match design drawing schedules at the current stage because it may change as you're going through. You, as a BIM coordinator or an information manager, or what you call yourself, you guys need to be the experts in this. Don't expect the design team to do it. Make it easy for them to get on with their job, sort out the expertise yourself, and then make sure you've checked it. I'm going to finish there because I've been 50 minutes. I said I was going to be 45. If you want to take any of this up, there's my details. As I said, this will be available later. Contact me. I've got your email addresses if you signed up to this, so I will send this slide deck out. I will send you some other, probably some guides and stuff that we've got. But if you've got questions, we're going to leave it now so that Andy there can get set up for his session next. Come and grab me. If you want to talk more about COBie, I'd love to talk about COBie over dinner. Thanks, everyone.